You're listening to the John and Heidi Show Bonus Hour. If you miss any of the program, you can find the podcast at the bottom of the page at sunnyradio.com.
Give yourself a little credit.
It's more important than ever to have a better credit card. At bettercreditcards.com, we offer a variety of credit card options to fit your needs. Whether you want a card to give you cash back or a credit card to help you build your credit, we probably have it at bettercreditcards.com. That's bettercreditcards.com.
Give yourself a little credit. Go ahead and switch to bettercreditcards.com.
Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show Bonus Hour. I'm excited for some fun things that are coming up this week. We've got a very funny comic that's going to be in the area on Thursday. I tried to get him on the phone today, but we're going to actually chat tomorrow, which is just fine. Coming up later, we're going to have Brent Baker stop in the studio with a little real estate update for the city of Sioux Falls and the surrounding area. So if you're in the market to buy a home or sell a home, I encourage you to talk to Brent Baker. He's amazing. He's actually the realtor that we worked with. So just did a different home about a year ago. Also, coming up, we've got This Day in Sioux Falls History. And today's Sioux Falls history has to do with a person who became president. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. The only person to be elected 4 times to the U.S. presidency was in Sioux Falls on this day. We're going to chat about that coming up in a bit. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show Bonus Hour.
Did you know you can allocate a percentage of your IRA to physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover? You can put your IRA back on the gold standard. Genesis Gold IRA is the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Genesis Gold IRA.com would like to help protect your IRA today with a simple phone call. Learn more and get the phone number at GenesisGoldIRA.com. That's GenesisGoldIRA.com.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show Bonus Hour on a Monday. I'm excited to have Brent Baker join us. He is with Keller Williams and Clients First Group. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
I'm excited to have you in here. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks, kind of going through a checklist on things that people should be aware of to make sure that their property is well maintained, not only for them while they're living there, but to also keep the value up when it's time someday to sell that home. We went through a lot of stuff for the outside. We talked about a lot of plumbing things now. And we mentioned dryer vents last week, which is another thing that people don't necessarily think about. But now let's talk about the hood vent and your stove, because that's another thing. I guess I've never even thought about my hood vent, but that's kind of important, isn't it?
Correct. Not many of today's homes vent directly to the outside. They recirculate. So underneath of your microwave, if your microwave is mounted above your range, there is sort of a hood there. There's a filter in there that gets dirty. Or if you have just a typical stove hood, and it's also recycles the air, there's a filter there that needs to be cleaned, and those things cannot do their job if they're plugged. And so if your house is starting to smell a little bit,
or when you cook bacon, you get smoke everywhere. Maybe that's just me from cooking it too hot.
I don't cook very often, but over time, you just know that things add up.
Speaking of appliances, there's others that are probably important to think about as well, like a refrigerator and freezer and those kind of things.
Correct. Refrigerators need to be cleaned. Some have a filter for the air. Some have a filter for the water. So there's things to look at. And, nobody likes a dirty fridge. Nobody wants to pull food out of a dirty fridge. And you need to clean behind it.
Yeah.
Dirt collects back there, and you have big dust bunnies, and those affect the efficiency of your refrigerator. So those coils get dirty. They need to be cleaned.
There's a reason there's wheels on that thing to roll it out and get back there and roll it back.
They weren't just for installation.
No. And now the electrical system is another thing that you might not think about, but that's a pretty important thing. A newer home, maybe not something you have to worry about nearly as much, but if you're looking at an older home, there could be some concerns there, couldn't there?
Correct. A lot has changed in that field over the decades. There's still homes with fuse boxes and with knob and tube wiring or steel case or fiber cover. And sometimes those have been affected by rodents. Older homes tend to have a problem because rodents have had more opportunity to get in because there's just more places for them to get in.
Yeah.
But even in a newer home, an outlet could go bad. It could short out. Light switches. We have ceiling fans, all the different types of light fixtures. So when a fixture goes bad, sometimes it's just a bulb. But if the bulb doesn't fix it, we have something deeper. And, electrical is probably one of the main causes of fires in a home.
And if there is an issue like that, don't leave that issue. If you go, what's going on? It's not a light bulb, it's something else. Get somebody in to fix it right away, because you would hate to find out that it's something else really bad by waking up in the middle of the night with a house on fire.
Yeah, that's not the wake-up call I want.
No. Now, another thing that's really important is the foundation. Everything is built upon that, and that's something that you want to make sure. I remember we were looking at some homes, and we're like, that's kind of like humped in over there, and that's kind of cracked over there. So these are things that are really important when you're working on making sure that a home is as good as it can possibly be. This is kind of where it all starts, isn't it?
Correct. If you see a crooked roof line and the floors walk crooked, well, then your problem has started in the basement.
Yeah.
And whether that is a foundation that is shifting, buckling, or maybe just the center beam is needing to be re-leveled. Older houses, you'll see that quite often. But sometimes you have a wall that's starting to buckle from outside pressure. And that's more common in a block wall than a poured wall by far when it comes to newer construction. But also, this goes back to that very first discussion we had about gutters.
Yeah.
If the gutters are not present or are not functional because they're plugged, now the rain is collecting at the base of the foundation. And that has potential for great harm.
And there are companies that can fix that. So, just because there's an issue with the foundation doesn't mean, we're done. This is not going to work. But there are companies that can fix it, but there's also an investment. And that's where you're saying, if I'm going to sell my house, maybe it makes sense to get that done first. So now you don't scare away a lot of buyers. And you can also say, hey, we just had all of this done. And it's not a project that the next person has to go, oh, hey, look what we get to do. We get to deal with all of this.
Well, it tends to be a great fear in people's minds, and they tend to walk away from a lot of houses where the foundation could be fixed.
Yeah.
But in their mind, the house is collapsing.
Yeah.
And perception is reality quite often. So it's best to just get those things addressed. They can be straightened. They can be repaired. And that puts people's mind at ease.
Absolutely. I think the last thing that we get to talk about now is the heating and cooling, and it's an important thing. I don't know why we put it last on the list here, but this time of year, you want to make sure the air conditioner works. In the wintertime, you want to make sure the heater works. That's another thing to just a little maintenance goes a long way, doesn't it?
It truly does. Here in the Midwest, where we have heat and humidity in the summer, and we get very, very cold in the winter, the last thing you want to do is to make an emergency call, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
It takes time to get furnaces. It takes time to install them. And there's not a lot you can do to offset that emergency. So it's best to, on an annual or semi-annual basis, have your furnace inspected. Make sure it's clean, that the burners are adjusted correctly.
Change the filters.
Change filters is a big, big thing. And maybe just have your ductwork cleaned.
Yeah. And
eliminate some pollens and some other things and then your air conditioner. It is supposed to stand level. I've always been told up to 5 degrees is fine.
Yeah.
Another thing is that those coils get dirty.
Yeah,
and so to turn the AC off, pull the fan motor, and wash it from the inside out, so that you're not packing the dirt further in, because it entered from the outside. But that will make your air conditioner much more efficient and give it a lot more life.
Nice. Brent, if somebody listening is going, hey, this has been fascinating, I'd like to know more, first of all, they can get this checklist from you. Or if they maybe want to buy a home or sell a home, how do they get a hold of you, Brent? The
best way is 605-310-0297, or you can email me at brentbaker@kw.com.
Very nice. Brent, thanks for coming in, sir.
It's always fun, John.
Again, Brent Baker, you can find him online as well. His website is clientsfirstgroup.com.
How much do you pay for your cell phone every month? If that's more than $15, it's time for a Mintervention. Mint Mobile makes it affordable and easy to switch. Get a new phone or bring your current one. Whether you're a fan of iPhones or Samsung, they both work well with Mint Mobile. At Mintervention.com, you can see the current special offers from Mint Mobile, offering premium wireless for just $15 a month. That's far less than most people are paying. Just $15 a month. Learn more now at Mintervention.com.
This day in Sioux Falls history brought to you by the Sioux Falls Fun page, West Sioux Studios, and Sunny 93.3. It was on this day, August 14th, 1920, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, made his only trip to Sioux Falls. Now, this is long before he became the president that guided the U.S. and the world, for that matter, through World War II. FDR, at the time, was the Democratic vice presidential candidate in the 1920 election. He was running alongside James Cox. Interestingly enough, much of that campaign, just over a year and a half after the end of World War I, focused on America's involvement in European affairs and the actual parameters of the new League of Nations. Actually, FDR's speech in Sioux Falls opened up touting the benefits of America's involvement in the League of Nations. This day in Sioux Falls history has been brought to you by the Sioux Falls Fun page at SiouxFallsFunPage.com, West Sioux Studios, and Sunny 93.3.
Why did the chicken cross the road? To save money on insurance at InsuranceChicken.com. Do you have the best plan for you? Find out at InsuranceChicken.com. Let's face it, we don't even want insurance. We need it. But you don't need to overpay. Head over to InsuranceChicken.com to see your rates from several different companies. All available in one place at InsuranceChicken.com. The other guys have a gecko, a duck, and an emu. Why not a chicken? InsuranceChicken.com. That's InsuranceChicken.com.